This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take source materials, maybe a report, maybe a few articles. Today it's one really rich report, and we really pull out the key insights.
Exactly. We do the digging so you get the core arguments, the important facts, the stuff that really matters for understanding something deeply.
And today's deep dive, it's about Nepal. Specifically, the critical state of its farming sector, why so many young people are leaving it, and a big strategic plan that's been proposed to try and turn things around.
Yeah, the source we're diving into is called Who Will Feed Nepal Tomorrow? A strategic plan to revive the agricultural sector by engaging the youth. It's quite a title.
It is, and it really gives you a sense of the stakes. This report looks at the whole picture, the social side, the economics, the structural stuff.
It's a really comprehensive look at a huge national challenge.
So, our mission today is to unpack this report. What's the real problem they've identified? What are the solutions they're putting forward? And, what are the big takeaways for anyone trying to understand this situation?
And it's not just about Nepal, is it? This story touches on themes, demographics, economics, how we see certain jobs, the potential for change that, honestly, you can see playing out in different ways all over the world.
Absolutely. You might find some surprising connections. So let's start with this. This paradox the report talks about right at the beginning. Nepal has a youth boom.
Right, a potential demographic dividend. You've got something like, what, over 40% of the population aged 16 to 40? And a big chunk, maybe 21% or 16 to 25. That should be prime energy for the economy.
It should be. But instead, the report says Nepal's facing a massive youth exodus. The numbers are, frankly, staggering.
Yeah, I saw those figures. Around 65,000 young people leaving the country every month.
Every single month, looking for work elsewhere. And over 660,000 overseas work permits issued in just 10 months in 2022-23. It's huge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the reasons are varied. Lack of jobs, politics, corruption, sure. But the report really highlights something crucial for agriculture. The image problem.
The image problem.
Yeah, the negative social view of farming. It's seen as hard, low-status work, kind of a last resort, maybe.
Yeah.
Something you do if you can't do anything else.
So young people with options,
Yeah.
they choose something else.
Exactly. They aim for engineering, medicine, IT, whatever, not farming. So this isn't just brain drain in general. It's draining people specifically from agriculture.
The report calls it sectoral passivity. Instead of dynamism from the youth boom, agriculture gets passivity, losing muscle and future minds.
And that feeds into another paradox, the economic one. Agriculture employs this huge slice of the workforce, right? 60, maybe 70%.
Yeah, massive.
But its contribution to GDP, way lower, like 23 to 27%. That screams low productivity, low output per person.
Which means low incomes for farmers.
Precisely. Which, of course, makes leaving look even more attractive.
And this connects to what the report calls the remittance trap. Nepal's economy leans heavily on money sent back by migrants. We're talking nearly 30% of GDP.
Huge. And look, that money helps families, reduces poverty, no question.
But for farming, it's a double-edged sword.
A very sharp one. The report argues it creates this cycle. Remittances make the hard slog of farming seem less necessary, maybe. Reduces the pressure.
Okay.
Plus, the people earning those remittances, they're not in Nepal to do the farm work. So you get labor shortages, especially at busy times like planting or harvest.
Right, makes sense.
And here's the twist. People have more money from remittances, so they buy more things, including more imported food.
Ah, so it actually works against the goal of being self-sufficient in food.
Exactly. The money earned by people leaving farms ends up funding food imports, undermining the very sector they left. It's a tough cycle. That's a really key point in this report.
Wow. Okay. And what does this look like on the ground?
You see an aging workforce in farming. Older farmers might struggle physically, and maybe they're less keen on adopting new, sometimes complex methods or technologies.
And the land itself.
That's maybe the most visible sign. The report estimates up to 20% of usable farmland is just sitting there, uncultivated, abandoned, because there's no one to work it.
20%. That's a massive loss of potential production.
It is. And then there's the gender angle. It's mostly men migrating. So women who already do the bulk of farm work, over 70% of the agricultural workforce, are left carrying even heavier loads.
And do they get more control or resources with the men gone?
Often not. The report points out they still face barriers to getting credit, owning land, making key decisions. So the crisis kind of piles on top of existing inequalities.
Okay, so let's recap the problem picture. A vital sector, bleeding young people, workforce aging, productivity low, land being left idle, and this weird dependence on remittance money that actually weakens farming further. It sounds
Yeah.
dire.
It's a serious situation, yeah. And that's why the report insists that any solution has to start with changing the image of farming.
Right, that perception thing you mentioned, it's seen as burdensome, low prestige.
The last resort.
Yeah.
That has to change. You can attract talent if the job looks like a dead end.
So how do you change it? The report pushes this idea of the agripreneur, right?
Exactly. Promote farming not as subsistence drudgery, but as a modern business opportunity, an entrepreneurial path.
And the best way to do that is...
Show, don't just tell. Highlight real success stories. The report is full of them. People making farming work, making it profitable, even high-tech.
Okay, give us an example. Like Shiva Kumar Tamanga, that name stood out.
Yeah, great example. He'd actually studied abroad, came back, had trouble getting a bank loan initially, interestingly, but a cooperative helped him out.
Okay.
And he built this modern organic farm. Uses drip irrigation, greenhouses, breeds better goats, focuses on high-value stuff. And the numbers are impressive, earning around 3.5 million Nepali rupees a year, and crucially employing 5 other young people.
See, that challenges the old image. High-tech, profitable, creating jobs.
Totally. Or take Chora Bahadur BK. His story shows simple tech can make a huge difference.
How so?
He learned, through his co-op again, how to build a really cheap ginger storage pit. Cost him about $120.
Okay, tiny investment.
Right. But letting store his ginger, instead of selling it cheap at harvest time, he could wait and sell it off-season when the price jumped from, say, 20 rupees a kilo to over 150, even to 220 rupees.
Wow, that's a massive increase just from better storage.
It shows the power of post-harvest thinking. It's not just about growing, it's about managing what you grow.
And there was a women's cooperative mentioned too, Galda.
The Galda Social Entrepreneurs Women's Cooperative, yeah, another powerful story. 272 women. They didn't just sell raw ginger. They got into processing, got organic certification.
Looking them up the value chain.
Exactly. And they successfully exported dried ginger to Germany, over 4,400 kilos. It shows collective power, market access, really transforming things for women farmers.
And the report mentions others too. Fish farming, vegetables, goats, integrated organic farms, all generating significant income. These aren't subsistence farmers. They're running businesses.
They are. They're the proof of concept. So the report suggests a big national campaign. Promote these champions of agripreneurs in the media, in schools, create national farmer awards, use the co-op networks to spread the word locally.
Change the narrative. Make farming seem like a smart, viable choice.
That's pillar 1. But you also need the skills, which brings us to pillar 2, education. The report is pretty critical of the current agricultural education and training system, the AT.
What's wrong with it?
It describes it as, well, outdated. Too much theory, not enough practical skills for today's market, fragmented, different institutions not working together, and ironically, it actually contributes to the brain drain. Maybe up to 30% of agricultural graduates end up leaving Nepal anyway.
So the system designed to support agriculture is actually losing its best people.
That seems to be the argument. It's not producing the kind of agri-entrepreneurs Nepal needs.
So what's the fix? What reforms are they proposing?
A few key things. First, overhaul the curriculum. Focus on agribusiness, entrepreneurship, climate-smart farming, digital tech. Make it flexible for different regions, too.
And more hands-on experience.
Absolutely critical. Mandatory internships, proper long-term placements with successful farms, co-ops, agribusinesses. Get students connected, learning practical skills.
Makes sense.
They also suggest bringing agriculture into schools earlier. School gardens, successful farmers giving talks, make it visible, make it respectable from a young age.
And connecting the dots between research, education, and the farmers.
Yes, building real bridges between universities, the Research Council, NRRC, and the government's extension services, DOA. Maybe something like the U.S. land grant model, ensuring research gets to the field, and involving the private sector in training, too.
What about shorter skills-based training? Not everyone needs a degree.
Right. Strengthening vocational training, the TVET system, developing certified courses for specific skills, organic certification, post-harvest handling for exports, greenhouse tech, using support from programs like the EU Nepal TVET one.
Okay, so pillar 1, change the image. Pillar 2, fix education and training. But even if you have the right attitude and skills, you need stuff to work with. Land and money.
Exactly. And the report identifies these as huge structural barriers, especially for young people. Let's take land first.
What's the main issue there?
Extreme fragmentation.
Yeah.
Because of how land is inherited, the average farm is tiny, like 0.19 hectares, and it's usually split into several little plots scattered around.
Wow, 0.19 hectares. That's incredibly small. Hard to farm efficiently like that, surely.
Very difficult. You can't really use modern machinery effectively. It makes everything more costly and time-consuming. It's a major discouragement for young people thinking about farming as a business,
Mm.
and it pushes people to migrate.
So how do you tackle that? You can't just redraw all the plots.
No, but the report pushes for accelerating this land bank idea, basically consolidating unused or abandoned land and leasing it out, maybe on long-term leases, specifically to young farmers or cooperatives.
Okay, so making idle land productive again.
And also incentivizing people to voluntarily consolidate their existing plots. Plus, making sure tenant farmers have secure leases so they feel safe investing in the land.
Right. Security is key for investment. Now, what about the other big one? Finance. Getting the money to start or scale up.
Another major hurdle.
Yeah.
Especially for youth who often lack the traditional collateral, like land or buildings, that banks usually demand.
Ah, the collateral problem.
Yeah. And this creates what the report calls the missing middle. Microcredit is available, but it's too small for serious investment. Standard bank loans are often too big or inaccessible without that collateral, so aspiring agri-entrepreneurs fall through the cracks.
Even though banks are supposed to lend to agriculture.
Yeah, there's a government mandate, but the report shows actual loan uptake by farmers has fallen significantly, from around 22% down to 12% over 10 years. The system isn't working for them.
So what are the proposed financial solutions?
Several innovative ideas. Creating a dedicated agri-entrepreneurship fund specifically for young farmers, maybe with government backing, to reduce risk for banks.
Okay, targeted funding.
Scaling up models that bridge that missing middle. Like one example where a business hub helps farmers develop solid business plans to make them bankable.
Using technical help to unlock finance.
Right, and promoting alternative collateral things like group guarantees through co-ops or financing based on the project's potential rather than just assets.
So relying on the business plan itself.
Exactly, and really strengthening cooperatives as financial players at the local level. They
Right.
know the community, they can assess risk differently, and they can distribute credit efficiently. We saw that in the success stories.
Yeah, the co-ops kept coming up.
Plus reforming things like government interest subsidies to make sure they actually reach the intended targets, like youth and women, effectively.
So land and finance access are crucial pillars 3 and 4. What about technology? Pillar 5. The report seems to put a big emphasis on tackling losses first.
Yeah, post-harvest losses. Because they are, well, colossal. Estimates range from 20% all the way up to 50% for some crops.
50%. Half the crop lost after harvest.
It can be that high for perishables. So the logic is, before you focus only on growing more, let's save more of what's already grown. Reducing losses gives you the quickest economic win. It boosts income immediately.
That makes total sense. What kind of tech are we talking about? Is it expensive stuff?
Not necessarily, especially to start. The report highlights simple, effective things, like that $120 ginger storage pit we talked about. Or cellar storage for apples in hilly regions keeps them good for months.
Okay, low-cost storage. What else?
Better packaging, like those special biodegradable bags, MAP bags that extend shelf life. The example was Akbar peppers, reducing weight loss from 10% down to just 2%. That's huge for market value.
Tiny change. Big impact.
And simple logistics solutions. In mountainous areas, gravity ropeways to get produce down quickly and safely instead of damaging it, carrying it for hours.
So the idea is these quick wins build momentum.
Exactly. They provide tangible benefits, boost income, make farming look more viable, and then farmers are more likely to invest in further improvements down the line.
But the report does talk about more advanced tech too, right? Agri-tech.
Oh, yeah. It notes there's a growing startup scene in Nepal. Companies offering weather advice via apps, e-commerce platforms connecting farmers to buyers.
Cutting out middlemen.
Potentially, yeah. Others are working on digital credit scoring to help farmers access loans, or using blockchain for traceability, proving something is organic, for example.
And on the farm itself. Things like drones.
Yes. Precision farming tools like drones, sensors for soil moisture, biotechnology for better seeds, biofungicides, and digital finance is spreading to mobile payments. Projects digitizing whole supply chains like dairy.
So the potential is there. But what's holding back wider adoption of all this tech, simple or advanced?
The report points squarely at infrastructure. Poor roads, unreliable electricity, patchy internet in rural areas. It's hard to adopt tech, even basic stuff, without that foundation.
So public investment in rural infrastructure is absolutely fundamental.
It's presented as a prerequisite, really.
Okay, so we've got image, education, land, finance, technology. 5 huge pillars. But the report seems to suggest one type of organization could be the key engine driving change across all of these, especially locally. Cooperatives.
Right. Co-ops are everywhere in Nepal, officially the third pillar of the economy. Over 30,000 of them, millions of members. The network is vast. Theoretically, they're perfectly placed to deliver services, training, finance, market access, tech adoption, right at the village level.
Theoretically. But you mentioned earlier they have problems. A governance crisis.
Yeah, the report is quite candid about this. Despite the potential, many co-ops are struggling. Issues with governance, political interference, lack of transparency, even scandals, and a big one. Many have drifted away from supporting farming itself and become just credit providers.
So they have the reach, but they're not always fulfilling their agricultural mission, and some have serious internal issues.
That's the paradox. But, crucially, the report also highlights co-ops that are working incredibly well. They serve as models.
What makes the successful ones work?
Several things. Some manage the whole value chain, like the Gulda Women's Group with ginger, or another one called Atipria, focused on goats. From inputs right through to processing and marketing. Farmers capture more value.
Okay, integration is key.
Others are really effective at introducing useful tech, like the Arawati Co-op with that ginger storage. And a lot of the successful ones have formed smart partnerships.
Partnerships with who?
External groups, NGOs like Heifer or Swiss Contact, international agencies, private companies, banks. These partners bring expertise, resources, market links that the co-op might lack on its own.
So leveraging external help strategically.
And focusing on integrated services, not just loans. Like the small farmers cooperatives model, they offer training, market info, advocacy, alongside finance, real support hubs.
So what's the strategy for co-ops then? Fix the broken ones and copy the good ones?
Pretty much a dual strategy. Reform and reorientation. Reform means better regulation, enforcing the rules, demanding transparency and accountability, proper oversight to stop fraud and political meddling.
Cleaning up the governance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And reorientation means pushing them back towards their core agricultural purpose, becoming genuine agribusiness hubs, providing collective services like buying inputs cheaper in bulk, owning machinery farmers can share, local training, processing facilities, help with marketing, maybe even linking farmer co-ops in rural areas with consumer co-ops in cities.
Okay, that makes sense. So pulling it all together, the report's strategy is comprehensive. It's not a single magic bullet.
Not at all. It's about hitting all these interconnected points. Changing the image of farming, fixing education, improving access to land and finance, leveraging technology smartly, and then using reformed, refocused cooperatives as the local delivery engine for all of it.
The core message seems to be, this crisis is deep, but it's fixable. It needs a total rethink, seeing agriculture as innovative, entrepreneurial, something young people can aspire to.
Absolutely, a paradigm shift, as they say.
And while this is focused on Nepal, you can really see the echoes elsewhere, can't you? Attracting youth to vital sectors, the role of tech, the power and problems of collective action. What resonates with you when you hear about this, thinking about your own context?
Well, it really makes you think. The report asks, who will feed Nepal tomorrow? The answer is it's youth, if they see a future in it. But it prompts a bigger question for all of us, doesn't it? In a world with changing demographics, climate pressures, food security worries, if the next generation doesn't want to produce food, who feeds anyone tomorrow? What does Nepal's challenge tell us about the global future of food and how we make these essential jobs viable and attractive for the people we need to do them?